Hey everybody, Casey.
Hello there, ladies, gentlemen and unicorns. Welcome to this wonderful stream. Well, it's not yet wonderful, but it's about to be wonderful. I'm so glad that you could make it. And congratulations, Frank, on being first on the pop quiz. I think by now you know all the answers to all the questions. And I think there are a lot of retro console nerds present today because you completely obliterated the last question about what buttons are on the NES controllers. Good evening and welcome. As with the past weeks, I was mostly concerned with Ludum Dare games, but I think we're done with Ludum Dare 49 now. The post-mortem is in the works for 49. I think this is the one I will focus on now because it's hopefully not the longest to do. We will see, fingers crossed. But yeah, I already worked on that one and I thought, why not go back to some good old game dev on my stream or something that could be useful for game dev. And so I thought I share with you my passion, my newfound passion for blue noise, that it is the Poisson disk distribution algorithm. And yeah, hold on to your papers, fellow scholars, because it's going to be great. Yeah, I will tell you all about it, how I learned about it and what you can use it for. So what does the chat say? Lucky guess. Game dev, exactly. It's been a while and I realize now here that for some reason my camera is very choppy, probably because of some low light compensation, but it's quite bright in here actually. I don't know. Anyway, so first let's start some chill background music because this is the only music that's going to be played today. Please let me know if it's too loud or too quiet. As you know, I don't hear it myself. So what the hell am I going to talk about? There it is, right? I always have to peek at my OBS window and in what direction I can point at. So Poisson disk sampling. This is a nice medium article. I will post it to you in the chat. And Bolto said the light near the keyboard is a bit painful. The blue one, you mean, right? So yeah, I think I got another blue one. This is the one that's doing this little color edge here. And this one is super bright, so I don't look directly into it, which I did. So whenever I look into this huge blue LED light, I get orange spots. Right, Poisson disk sampling. It sounds like it's something super hard. S equals R divided by the square root of 2. What the hell? But if you see this picture, I think I've posted it this Friday night when I first learned about blue noise. This is precisely what blue noise is compared to random noise. So we're talking about distribution, ideally distribution on a 2D plane or on a 2D field, because in game dev, at least as for me, I've mostly done when I'm scattering things just randomly, think grass or rocks. If you want to cover a surface somewhat evenly but randomly, I always went with white noise, which means just every dot is completely random. And the problem with that is, you can probably see already what the problem is. There are some areas here that are completely undotted, while other areas like this one here or the one above here, they have this weird clumping thing. So when you want to place, for example, meshes generatively like this, don't go for a white noise algorithm, because you will have to do many tests for intersections, and you just waste a lot of time, computing time, just to find a random spot and hope that it's not too close to something else, and also to avoid these white areas. As compared to here, this is Poisson sampling. It looks a bit more structured, but actually it's also quite random. There's still some bald spots in between, but not as many, and it's not as ugly as those 1,000 samples here with the random sampling. So you see the Poisson disk sampling. Also, this I think this is also how inside our eyes, our receptors for light are positioned like with the Poisson disk sampling, because if it's in rows, or if it would be in rows, you get weird aliasing artifacts, and this is also why some ray tracing renderers render also with Poisson disk sampling. So you can see I looked a bit into this. Right, the automated unicorn shouted Beetlejuice. Yeah. For those who were there last time when I was donning my beautiful weird makeup, I had problems getting the automated unicorn to acknowledge that it was in fact Halloween, and I spent some time live on the stream just trying to code my server to reflect that, and I didn't get it to work. Of course, as always, I did multiple assignments, and I missed the second one. So this is now why it's working, and I thought, because I spent quite some fun time getting the automated unicorn to appear all Halloweeny, I thought for today I just keep it and have this little extension to Halloween. Sounds gross. Beetlejuice, yeah, it sounds gross, but it's a movie. It's an old movie with Michael Keaton, if I'm correct. Was it Michael Keaton? I think. Anyway, Poisson disk sampling, right. You probably wonder how a guy like me learns of this, and this is another thing that I want to copy and paste now to the chat. There we go. Because this is super interesting if you're into programming and really about how can something take like 20 seconds and how you can optimize it to take like 1 or 2 seconds. And this is a wonderful talk by Casey Muratori on how he did some performance optimizations for the editor code for The Witness. Maybe I can find here something
See that it just
of The Witness now, where he's just showing how the grass works in the game, and this is how the distribution worked here in the editor, which was super slow, especially if you wanted as an artist wanted to place these grass areas multiple occasions. So it takes like 20 to 30 seconds, and in the end this is the entire talk. He talks about how he gets this down. And also this grass is a Poisson disk sampling, a blue noise grass that is there, and Casey came up with an algorithm of how to do this rather speedily without having that many misses, because the problem is with random noise sampling and Poisson disk sampling, you can do random sampling super easily because no dot has any reference or doesn't need to know about what other dot came before it. Ideally, it's completely random, so no matter where a dot lands, you never know where the next one is going to land or not. With Poisson disk sampling, it's a bit harder in terms of how to code this, but this is my idea what I'm going to do today. But you get this much nicer noise. So how does this disk sampling actually works? And again, all that I know is based on mostly of what I've learned in this talk. So if you got 2 hours and 50 minutes or 1.5 hours at double speed, give it a watch. So essentially, Poisson disk sampling means you sample something, but you also specify with each dot or each sample, let's just stick to two-dimensional sampling here, also has a radius, a minimum radius where a new dot could land, and a maximum radius, how far a new dot, I don't think you need a maximum radius. Actually, I think with that it's just a minimum radius. So you get each sample a minimum radius of where another sample or where another sample could be placed. And when you do this also randomly, when you just pick random points on like this square here, at a certain point there aren't that many free spaces left, and you need to have a lot of samples just to find a new spot that is not too close to another point. So this is not the most speedy algorithm on how to do this, so I thought I would be taking Casey's algorithm. Maybe I can find the right thing here. Yes, so here is what he came up with that is called neighborhood sampling. So this is the original algorithm where you just randomly shoot dots, and each blue dot defines where the algorithm tried to place another sample, another dot, but it couldn't place it because it was too close to others or otherwise invalid. So you need a lot of those dots to get this result, but to arrive at this result you only need this many samples. So how does this neighborhood sampling work? Well, it's kind of implied because neighborhood, right? Casey's algorithm works like this: you place a sample somewhere randomly or start right in the dead center of an area where you want your distribution, and then in addition to this minimum radius that you have, that where no other dot can be in between or inside, you also get a maximum radius of where to place other dots randomly. And then you just place dots in the neighborhood until it's not possible to place any more dots in the neighborhood of the first dot. And then you continue for the next dot that you placed and just look into its neighborhood of how many it could place there, and so on and so forth. So you can see it vastly reduces the number of necessary samples needed of where you can have to test whether it's possible to place something or not. Right, I hope this was clear. What's behind the theory behind this, and my idea now is to get started trying to code this algorithm up in GameMaker and see how far I can get. I really wanted to get back with GameMaker now after they made some changes. I don't know if you've heard it, but GameMaker, Yo-Yo Games, the makers of GameMaker, were acquired by Opera, the browser manufacturer, which is known for being somewhat litigious, I think. And they changed, of course, because they always change, big corporations always change things. They changed the business model to subscription based. So for me, who bought GameMaker back in the day when it was still one-time purchase, my plan carries over, so I don't have to pay a subscription and still can use it, but I had to update my account, so I'm having a bad feeling about this, but maybe rather sooner than later, and probably they also shove me into getting a subscription for good, because this is what also Adobe does. Right, so I still got 7 viewers. I was a bit worried that I would lose some of you, but I hope you understood what the goal of today is, and now it's all comes down to how well can I put this into coding to compared to what I think of how it should be going, right? So first, we got to define some things that are also necessary of how to do this, and just some general guidelines. And my guideline would be to have this in one script or one object, essentially, where you just pass it. Okay, this is you could say the range or the area, maybe a square in the room or something, inside of which I want this blue noise distribution. And then my script does it all and just returns maybe an array with structs of just valid coordinates. I think this would make the most sense, because now then it's modular. You can use it for pretty much anything. All you get, you say, yeah, this is my area, I want to have things in there, and it spits out all the things that are valid, all the coordinates that are valid. And I could draw sprites there, I could place tiles, particles, game objects, doesn't matter, just for that. I think sounds good. Does it sound good? I will have some water now. Now that I try to explain it, I realized that it's going to be a bit hard for me. So we're probably going to have a look into data structures and such with GameMaker. And we'll see how far I can get today with this. I'm already a bit tired today. I've had a horrible week. Well, it wasn't that horrible. It was just hard, and we had some handyman here, and I had to get up much earlier on one day. Either way, let's not get distracted. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I do is I as with GameMaker always, I make a room that I just call init, or room init where the initialization happens, and then it jumps to the actual room that I want to do, or that I want to start my game or whatever it is in. So for this now, I'm just going to call it room main. It's not necessary for this project, I think, but it's never bad to start with some boilerplate code that usually gets you started. So I call the first one control init, and all it does for now is once it gets created, this is where, for example, I would create my singletons for game controllers and such. But right now, I don't think we need one. Maybe we need an input controller. So I will probably create a new input controller, which is just simple that it, when we are updating what we have, the results, that maybe if every time I hit space or so, I get a new seed for this. Maybe something along those lines. But it's always good to keep this decoupled. Right, control input, and so when we're creating, I create a new global variable, global input instance, create depth at 0 coordinates, 0 depth, and it's just control input. Right, and once this is done, we just go to the room, go to room main, and instance destroy itself. So this is everything that's currently necessary for this. So I keep this persistent, but it's not really necessary that it stays persistent because it destroys itself once it went to the next room. So as for the input controller, right now I'm not doing anything with it. I just create a new create event, but doesn't do anything, because when we start here in the main room, maybe I have an object, and this one I will call just obj blue noise, or blue noiser even. This is nice. So this is something that we do. So we go to the main room, and this is still for our initialization, and the room main starts here on instances with this blue noiser instance. So just that we know that we are on the correct room, I will change it here, the background color, and then we will test to see whether it works. So for now I enable viewports, because I always like to have viewports 1920 by 1080, 1920 by 1080, you know what, 1280 by 720, that it just doesn't fill the entire screen. And visible, yeah, this is also something I've learned the hard way. 1920 by 1080. Right, and the background color is something that's not black, maybe dark gray. So the first room, this initialization room, let's also give this 1920 by 1080. Also enable viewports. With GameMaker it's super weird sometimes when you don't enable the right viewport size at the very first room you're in. It's always a bit weird whether it really carries through or not what it should be doing. Right, and here of course in the initialization room we start with our initialization control. So currently the flow is super simple. We just start with the init room, do our initialization, and once we're in the main room, there it should already run our blue noiser, and just that we know that the blue noiser is running. In this blue noiser thing, I just draw something. I say draw circle color at, I don't know, 1920 divided by 2 by 1080 divided by 2. With a radius of 200, and the color is sea green to sea red. This is going to be super ugly, and it's not just the outline. Alright, so we should see now, if I compile this, an ugly circle. There we go. Wonderful. So this worked. This is good. We can get rid of this code now. Right, so first I think what I need to do now is to set up this blue noiser so that it just creates or requests of our I think I will handle this as a script, which is just a function in GameMaker. Now they are functions. And the cool thing about GameMaker is that you can do structs now like a proper language. I've always missed being able to do structs. So I don't think I will need structs a lot for this, but maybe a little bit. So yeah, you never know. Right, let's see the chat. Okay, good. I haven't missed anything because you know me, I'm very likely to miss the chat. So if you want to get my attention, just add Pixel Prophecy the chat, and hopefully I will get to see it within the next 10 minutes. First time chat from viewer. It's Solidao. Hi, welcome. Thank you for chatting. And I even saw that you chatted. So congratulations on stepping out of the shadows of just lurking. So yeah, I'm glad that you're here. You're listening intently. Oh, you don't have to be that dishonest with me. It's fine if you just have me yep in some far forgotten tab of your browser. Right, okay, so I just create here some variables and I just say region width, let's say 200, and region height is also 200. So just that we have something that we can pass our script. And yeah, I think that's it. And maybe we should store the result. Yeah, let's not do this. Maybe we should do this. So once this is created, it shoots a call to a function which in return returns an array with coordinates, and then it just draws dots at these coordinates. I think for now this should be good. It's interesting, says Ender, for me, because I never saw GameMaker in action before. You're going to love/hate it, probably. But yeah, I've been very fond of GameMaker for the past 6 years or so. Still, I'm still a bit overwhelmed with the functionality of Unity, and I think I know my way around GameMaker, but they changed some things, and I haven't done a lot with GameMaker in the past half year, so we will see how it goes for me. Anyway, right. So I create a new script now, and I call this script SCR because this is what we do in GameMaker. We prefix everything with what it is. Is this a Hungarian notation, I think, when you start with the data types. Anyway, I just call this script blue noise. And there we go. So script blue noise requests the width and the height and maybe the amount of how many samples it should shoot. And for now, let's just say for I don't know how for loops are done. Do I have here snippets? How do I get to my snippets? There we go, F4. So it's a for loop. There we go. For I equals 0, I is less than amount. And then we just now let's do some white noise just for testing purposes. Right, so white noise means X and Y are just random, right? So right, we probably need to store this somewhere, and I think like I said, I could do an array of structs, which probably is the fastest, and I think this should be fine because we know how many entries we will have in the end, so I think this should be good. So let's say return array is, I forgot how to initialize an array here because this is how I would usually do it. GameMaker, it's been too long since I've done GameMaker, so let's open array. Let's open, maybe I should spell array correctly. Let's open the help file and say arrays. There we go. You know what? Maybe you are interested in what I'm seeing as well. So let me paste this also here. So this is how you do arrays. One-dimensional array, I think we were fine with it, just a one-dimensional array. And yeah, you just specify the number of entries that you want to have, which is good. So super simple. So the return array, or how was the, already forgot how the, it's just, okay, so I just call it array and then square brackets. So I just call it return array is a new array of return array of amount. Let me check if I just did this right. Value is a, right. Then a outputs to the console, which is based on the contents of the array. Okay, so value equals array. So numbers, okay, so it's just equals the amount where we are in, I think. My god, game maker and arrays, I completely forgot how to do them. How do I do creating array section? Yeah, this might make sense. Arrays, dimensional arrays, overview, arrays, one-dimensional arrays. Where did you see creating arrays? There we go. So array, so I don't have to say anything. You can also create array and initialize array with a fixed size. So it's array create and the size. Wonderful. So array create is, yeah, it's okay. So I don't need the second thing, which are just the values. Okay, so array create is the return array. Is array create amount. There we go. Cool. Thank you, Cursey-Boo. Okay, yeah, again, I need to get my brain up to speed. I'm blacking out a bit. Okay, so with the return array, and then let's see how GameMaker now does structs. Because structs are super cool. My structs, an example of this practice would be, okay, so it's like JSON. It's like JSON. Instance variables, instruct declaration, keyword. You cannot use any built-in global variables as struct members. You can find a full list. So forbidden variables. This is wonderful. Okay, so I don't know if I can use structs more or less like a template, but let's just call it my struct, and I will say X and Y. And let's just say this sample. There we go. So for each one I create a sample, and this sample is just I random of the maximum width and the maximum height, not hate. And then just pops it onto the array. Return array I is sample. There we go. And once we're done, we return, I think I'm returning a reference to the array. With GameMaker, you never know if you're passing something by reference or by value. Return array. And then we will see how this goes. So far this is good. What do I have here? Only referenced once. Yeah, of course it's referenced once right now. And I don't need the rooms right now. And now here in our blue noiser, so I say amount is also 200 samples for now. So, and then I say results array is script blue noise region width region height and amount. Right now it's doing nothing, but hopefully it doesn't throw me an error. Okay, good, so we get no errors. So now we can try to draw this. Right now this is super bad what I'm doing, because I'm trying to draw this now every step, but it's cool. We're just testing things. Okay, so how do I draw something like this? So again, I start with this for loop. So for I, and we got here the results array. Width, is it width? Array, I think it's array get, or array 1D. Array length, there we go, for the array length. And then we just draw a, let's draw a circle. Let's say the radius of the circle is like 4, and then just set draw, set or draw color, draw set color, there we go. I'm picking just color aqua because it's a nice blue color and it works well with the borders. Color, right, and then we just say draw circle at, of course we need to get our sample. Position is results array at I, and then we draw at pos X, pos Y, and the radius is R, and it's not just the outline, false. And this should be it. I mean, right now we're iterating through an array of 200 each frame, so it's probably not the most performant that we're doing, but let's see whether this works. Okay, this works. This works fine. Just fine. Okay, so maybe we don't want this to be here in this top corner. Maybe I also want to specify for my region a starting point and then just width and height, right? This would make sense. So maybe we should also pass this. So region X, we start with 200 inwards, and region Y with 200 inwards, and also probably should pass this to the script. Where's my script? There we go. Start X and start Y. Right, so what we could do now is we just have here our random values, but now I just add start X to this and start Y to it, and this should be fine, right? And Mr. Julius is here. Wonderful, thank you for dropping by. So let's see if this works still. It does, wonderful. So we can specify at what coordinate we want to have our corner here. Again, right now this is drawing 200 samples each step. I'm sorry, not the best thing to do. Maybe we can draw this onto a surface, which would be faster. But for now, oh, Cursible redeemed unicorn. Well, there you go. For now, it should be fine. So I just put this here in Blue Noiser and maybe say, maybe do this on a surface. Because now I'm just trying to make the region a bit bigger, let's say 1000 by 1000. And probably have more samples. Okay, so this is the starting position of it. Okay, so let's start at room width divided by 2 and room height divided by 2. Oh, maybe there is a T missing. Wonderful. And what else? Minus region width times 2 or divided by 2 so that it's perfectly center, right? Region height divided by 2. There we go. And testing, what's this thing? It's highlighting your message and you spent 100 unicorn flakes on it. I don't think that this was worth it, but Thank you. Pretty. Okay, so the region should be now, let's try 1000 by 1000, and hopefully this is now centered. I did nothing. Yeah, this looks good. I did nothing for, let's go with 500 samples for the algorithm yet. Okay, so 500 samples, it looks okayish, but yeah, we can see the distribution is not very nice. And so just that I have a switch between white noise and blue noise just for testing. I just say a global noise is white. Yeah, let's say, yeah, false. And then I can create if global noise is white, then we're doing this pretty thing here. But now let's try and get started. It was completely worth it. Wonderful. Let's get started on doing this sampling thing. Okay, so the first thing that I probably need is now, since we're talking about blue noise, is that probably each dot here needs to know, or needs to have a way, needs to be stored, right? Because the other dots need to know whether they are colliding with it or are in the vicinity of another dot that they could be colliding with. Right, so maybe I start wonderful MS Paint so that I hope I can visualize what I'm trying now to do in my head, and hopefully by verbalizing it, it helps me what I'll be doing. Okay, so I think for starters, this is the one downside of our algorithm. There is always going to be multiply by 0.2 rather than divide by 2. Is it really differently by doing the multiplication? Because I have a feeling that the compiler of GameMaker does this divided by 2, returns it to multiplications anyway. And this is also only happening, there we are, only happening just once when we start. So actually it shouldn't be something that we have to worry about, I don't know, SIMD or something. But yeah, okay, just be safe. Just be safe. If you highlighted your message, then I'm happy to oblige. Worth it. Let's see how fast this runs now. Error! How is this possible? All right, of course, because we disabled the white noise. So yeah. And yeah, then we can, even if this, then we can just return. And otherwise, we can start here with blue noise, right? White noise. I mean, this is a super helpful comment, right? If global white noise is white noise, it's like writing this. This is a comment, right? I like to comment a lot. So yeah, it's quite helpful to have a certain way of doing comments. Like, I mean, sometimes it's helpful like this, so that I just, yeah, it says here white noise twice. Or you know what, I can simplify this a bit better. If noise is white, then we do this sampling, otherwise we do it differently. Right, else, and there is our blue noise. Blue noise. And yeah, this should be much better. Right, okay, for is here, if is here, sample, else, return. And we don't need this here. And this is one too many. There we go. So that was the problem. Right, I completely forgot what I wanted to say before. Right, in terms of commenting, sometimes it's quite good not to comment everything. I mean, of course, it's good to not to comment everything, but sometimes it's good to comment what things do. If it's complicated, if you just look at it, if you go through a code where it just says this block, it does this and that. But sometimes it's super helpful if you're doing things differently to also have this in a comment where a comment says, you probably wonder why am I doing this? This and that is the reason for this, because it influences things at this position, and this should happen always at this stage. Because this is really what saves your life when you come back to your code base after 2 weeks even. Faster time to error, says Crazy Boo. And Andrew says, ooh, that's how highlighting works. In GameMaker, you mean? Okay, so now if I just have here just that I can give something back, then I just make this sample thing here. Or you know what, I don't even need to construct these things differently. I can construct this. I'm just creating here some global variables x and y, or xx and yy, and then I just put the sample in here, x and y, because now I can say x is width and y equals height, so I can make this even simpler, hopefully. And otherwise I just say x equals, I don't know, I plus 4, and y is start y, start x plus I. Is it plus I plus 4? Yeah. Let's see, just so that I can have something in there that just, so we just get a row of dots. Precisely. Good, okay. Or if I switch this to 8, then it's a dotted line. Well, no dots so far because the radius is higher than this, because we're starting at, you know what, maybe we should go 4 times I. The automated unicorn spends 5 nights at Freddy's. Yeah, okay, so this works that we have a different, a different branch here for doing our things. Right, first water, and then back to my beautiful diagram. Okay, so the only downside is that we're starting dead center here, and this is going to be our first sample. I just make this a lot bigger. So this will be our first sample, and each sample, like I said, has a radius, a dead zone where no other sample can be positioned, right? So we just store this very first sample. I just made a line there that to say it's saved. And then, so this is the dead zone. Let me make this red, where no other sample can be placed. And then outside of the dead zone is the neighborhood sampling. Let's make this the blue zone. And it's not properly centered. Yeah, something like this. And now in this blue zone, inside this blue zone, we're just randomly sampling things. And if a sample is not too close to the center, then it's a valid sample, and we can there put it on the list. And once all samples, maybe this is not, I can't draw with a mouse. And once we're done, and there are no more spaces, maybe we try like I don't know, 50 times, 100 times, depends on how large this area is. And after we've exhausted all possible tests, then we move on to the next sample. But we first mark the first sample that we did as okay, we're done here. We go to the next sample of one of the samples that we created, like this, and then also there we start the same process over. And once we're done and there are no more free spaces in its neighborhood, we also mark it as done. So yeah, this is a piece of art, by the way, now. But yeah, at least this is how things should be working. I'm not too concerned with making this very optimized. probably because I just want to get it done and then worry about optimization. The other thing is that I'm probably not very good at, I don't know, BSB trees or something like this, or what tree data structure you could be using, because I think I'm going to more or less for a brute force thing. Right, PG-18 stream. Oh my god. Yeah, depends on on how you interpret my art. That's a nice algorithm. Thank you. Rated R for unicorns. Oh dear, yeah, I didn't consider how it could be interpreted as. Right, okay. So for all the samples that we have, maybe we should do a couple of passes. Maybe this was not the best structure that I was doing. You know what? I'll take it back and say, just if this is white noise, if global noise is white, then we do this. So that I don't have to make sure that it works, just that this block is nice. Okay, so if global noise is white, then this thing runs here and everything that comes here is now blue noise. Okay, so the first thing we do is we start dead center and have here our first sample. So maybe I start a new data structure, so I just call this, maybe let's do a list. So list, let's just call it list for now, is a ds list create. I'm just creating a new list data structure there. And the first thing that I'll be doing, I need a new data structure there. I mean, right now I just call it sample because I want to have, I mean, this is just the sample data structure that we return. This is just an X and Y. But for our purposes, we need to know more information. I mean, X and Y make sense. But then, of course, we also need the dead zone and the neighborhood zone, and whether we already did the passes of all the possible neighbors of a sample. So we probably should put this in a data structure, and I just call this list sample. My god, naming things is so hard, isn't it? So list samples equals new thing, and there we just say X. X is something, Y is something, inner radius, or let's call this dead zone, equals something. This is just the point from the center. Let's just say 20 pixels, I don't know. And N zone for neighborhood zone, let's say 100 pixels. Neighborhood zone. I shouldn't do this. I need to use commas because we're inside some weird JSON kind of structure, and I call this done false. So just format is nice because I always like when things are nicely formatted, because then it's easier for me at a glance to grasp what things are going. Okay, I'm just creating here a list sample. So this is more or less the template for all our list samples. I really don't know how to better term this. Anyway, right, okay, so the first list sample that we have, that we put is in the dead center of the thing that we have. So I think we can add the starting coordinates at the very end. Maybe I don't think that we need it now, because right now we're just inside. I mean, we don't need actual coordinates right now. We can be in our own local coordinate system and then just move it to start X and start Y once we're done. Right, okay, so maybe I call this not list sample, but local sample, that it makes more sense. So we start with width times 0.5 and height times 0.5. Right? And then the dead zone, maybe I should do this here, because the dead zone should and the neighborhood zone should be the same for all samples, at least at the start. So just call this dead zone 20, n zone 100. Yeah, now I don't need the commas. And then of course I probably won't need them in the struct anymore. I just need to say this is the local x and the local y. Let's go with local x and local y, just so that I don't forget it, that this is local and still needs to be unlocalized, and whether we are done with it. Right. Okay, so this is my very first sample, and the very first sample I put on my list. So ds list add. The list is the list, and I'm adding the local sample. There we go. And then I return the array, but now we don't have an array yet, we just have a list. So at the very end, list to array is again for let's make this simpler, for ds list length is its size, list size of the list. We just turn this into the array. So yeah, probably just need this here. Good. Okay, so the x equals, well, first we need to get something from the list. So ds list find value, just call this sample is ds list find value in the list at position I. There we go. And then we just say start x plus sample x, or local x, and y plus sample local y. And yeah, this is also called sample. This is problematic. I could list item. There we go. This should be better. This should be better, right? But still got something here problematic. Unexpected syntax error. ds list find value, ID and position. Not quite sure what the problem is. Oh, the comma. Of course, it's the comma. And here we just say a new sample is x and y, and we add this to the return array, and we should be done. So I think done is never used. Right, so this it actually is at the very end. So what I'm hoping that we have now is just one sample that's deb in the center. Or we get an error message. Unable to find instance for object 0, draw circle at position x and y not. Oh dear, and we are here already at if global noise is white. Let's just say debug or show debug message. I think that's what it's called. Show debug message blue noise. Just want to make sure that we are actually in this part here before I'm looking for something. And yes, I don't know if you can see this, but here this is at least good. And yeah, this is my good old way of debugging, because I always feel that I don't want to have to use a debugger or something. I just have here my printf statement and just see if it comes up before the error message, and it does, So I think before here the return array should be good. Okay, so we're unable to draw this, and I think I know why. Because the return array is now greater. If you remember, we said here we got the amount is 200 or whatever we passed, right? And this is now we've initialized the array with this amount of 200. But here now we just have this one sample. So we need to reinitialize the array for the number of actual samples that we have, at least in this case. And yeah, this is going to be a bit problematic. I just came to realize because the amount of samples, it's not a big deal when you do it in white noise, but if we're doing it like I said in my weird, we start from the center and then we just grow outwards, you really don't know how many samples you get or how many things you have at the end. So I think I will take out this amount now, because it probably won't work anyway, and instead of the amount we just say the spacing or the dead zone between things. So I just call it spacing, and this I think I use, let's use 100, spacing, right. And then of course go through everything that we've used the amount. We don't have it here, so spacing. Then we create a new array. And the good thing is that the arrays grow in GameMaker. But yeah, let's just say if it's white noise, then the spacing is the amount. You know what? I don't think we need the white noise anymore anyway, because I don't want to pollute this blue noise function with just something that produces white noise, right? All my logs look like here 1, here 2. Okay, good. So I'm not the only one doing the good old printfs. Right, okay, so I create a new return array. And here I actually return array is new, or was it array create, and the size is the DS list size of the list, of course. Let's try this now. My favorite game maker studio stream. Oh, this is so nice. Thank you so much. Kenny Klizzle. Thank you so much. Okay, this is good. We just have here one spot now. And it's right in the center, exactly what I wanted. And for debugging purposes, as you recall, I took out here the dead zone and the neighborhood zone. You know what? Let's keep it in, just that we can use it for debugging. So I just say used for debugging only. So here the dead zone, again, I can just take from spacing. So this is actually the dead zone is spacing, and the neighborhood zone is, let's say, spacing times 2. Let's say times 2. So it's just the radius around the sample. Right, okay, good. Let's hope that this works. For now I want to just visualize it, because then if I'm having problems or so, then it's easier to start debugging them when you really can see where the problem is. So the dead zone is dead zone, and the neighborhood zone is the N zone. Good. When I hit F5, it should look exactly as it did before, and this is good. And now let's do it here for debugging purposes. Right, so I just say, I just draw a pixel with where the center is of our sample, and then I just draw circles. I mean, I should draw the circle of the neighborhood zone, draw the circle of the dead zone, and then place the pixel of the actual sample in the middle, that we can just, yeah, visualize where we are. Right, okay, so I draw the circle. Of course, now, yeah, this is something that I, of course, need to return as well. And it's already getting a bit ugly. Anyway. So we got here the dead zone and the end zone, and we also need to have this here dead zone and end zone. So the dead zone is list item dead zone. Did I call this dead zone? Yes. And list item N zone, so that we also have them in this sample. Again, used for debugging only because it doubles the size of our data structure. And thanks for subscribing with Prime Gaming, Kenny. I really I have nothing to celebrate this with apart from hearty swab from my what? It's not called swab. But thank you, Kenny, for subscribing. Really, really do appreciate it. Right, completely out of the zone where I was. Used for debugging only. We don't need this in the end, I think. Yeah, maybe let's keep it in. Memory is cheap these days, right? Memory is cheap. Okay, so we draw the circles from, we get here the pause, the position, let's call this just item, that it makes more sense. So we draw a circle from the item's center, and the radius is the dead zone or the neighborhood zone. And maybe I should also draw it with different colors. And again, this is not going to be not very performant, but just that we can see it. Okay, so let's say color N is green, then the color for the surrounding region, the dead zone, is red, and the color for the sample is white. And also the alpha is 0.5 for the other things, right? Okay, so because I don't, when I'm overlapping things, I don't want them to be too opaque. That's the thing. Okay, draw, I mean, this is super expensive, draw set alpha, because I'm doing this so many times per step, but we're good now. We're good now. So I'm going to set this to alpha, and then I'm drawing the circle again of, oh, I've deleted my beautiful drawing. Right, okay. So essentially, what colors did I pick? The neighborhood zone is green. So this is the entire neighborhood zone where something is going to be or could be placed. Then we got, come on, paint. Then we got the red zone, which is where no other sample is allowed to be placed. And then we got hopefully a white pixel in the middle where the actual sample was. This one here. Cool, okay. This is at least how it should look like. So this radius is the end zone and it's not the outline. Then we draw, maybe we should draw circle color, right? And the color, of course, we got the inside color and the outside color is just color neighborhood, and not the outline, false. Then we draw color D, that is the dead zone. And then we switch the alpha, draw set alpha to 1 so that it's completely opaque. And we draw, should we draw a pixel or a circle? Let's draw just a point at item X and item Y. And maybe we should give it a color, draw point. Can I say draw point color? Yeah, I can. And the color is color sample. So hopefully this should draw just this one thing in the middle, like so, and everything is just red. Everything is just the dead zone. What did I do? Oh yeah, of course, I drew the dead zone with the neighborhood zone color. Yeah, thank you, Bismarcus. And it's not working. What did I do? Not copy. Use probably the wrong variable name. It's not D zone. This is also a thing that you probably should avoid if you have a naming convention, or at least have a naming convention. I call this one N zone and D zone, which for this makes sense, right? This is how you would, when you start using something like neighborhood zone or dead zone. I think it would even be better to call it zone neighborhood and zone dead, right? So that if I start zone because I want a zone, then it is in this. So maybe let me just go with zone N and zone D. And of course we also need to do this in the script. So the dead zone is zone D, neighborhood zone is zone N, neighborhood zone. Again, I'm just being very verbose here, just so that I know what the hell am I doing when I'm reading this again. So dead zone and neighborhood zone, zone D and zone N. I scaled this. This is not what I wanted. My God. Dead zone, zone D and zone N is zone D and zone N. This is much better, isn't it? Much better. Let's hope it works. Yes, it works. It works. Wonderful. If you can't see this, there is the super tiny spot there in the middle. Right. And the red is, again, the dead zone. Okay. So far, so good. We haven't implemented anything from our algorithm so far. But this is where we are going to get to now. Okay, so this is the very first sample that we took, is just in the center. And now I just take this local sample that we have right now and sample so many neighbors until there aren't any neighbors that I could place among its vicinity. So right, let's make this green, that it looks somewhat to what we have now. So again, I'm just, my intention is to just I need a bigger brush. There is my brush, and let's pick this as a brush size and white. So I'm going to just sample here randomly points, and once they fall in the green, then I will check whether, I mean, when they are in the green, they are outside of the other point, and then I will just draw here. I will essentially commit to them in this position. The problem that I just realized is now when I do this multiple times, those dots, those newly created samples also, of course, need to know whether they are already connected or close to a neighbor. That if I sample a spot here, just to zoom in, if I sample this spot here, but already have this neighbor here, this one should be aware that it's actually in the red zone of a neighbor. And I don't know how to quite to do this. I mean, what we could do is just sample like 50 of them and then iterate over the list as long, and then throw out that many samples, or that many illegal samples, until we are just left with only valid samples. Again, there probably is a much faster and better method of doing this, or a more clever method of doing this, but I think this is at the moment is all I got so far right now. Again, the problem is that I need to pick an arbitrary value of how many samples I'll be taking in this here, and this of course depends on the size of the dead zone and the size of the neighborhood zone, I think. So it's not really the size, but the coverage, the volume. Well, it's not the volume, it's what's into the area. There we go, the area that's been occupied. I'm not going to do this right now, just it's something that we probably should be in the lookout for. Yes, okay. To reiterate, my plan is now I'm going to sample, like, let's say 50 samples here and put them on a data structure, and once I have 50 samples, then I really start checking against each other, which is again a costly process, but I hope, I mean, since we only need to do this once when the player requests something like this, I hope we don't do this kind of randomness each frame, because this would be costly, but I think I could, at least for now, get away with that. Okay, so sample neighbors. So then I just let's call this NX and ny, just for now. Okay, what I'm doing is local sample or neighbor. Again, I'm using the same struct that I have above, like so. But instead of using this random, instead of using this, I just say, okay, let's take the previous, I need to think this through. Let's start from, or let's give it a valid area that we can restrict the randomness. Yeah, I think this could be it. So nx is the local sample that we have. Let's call it a center sample, that we just know that it's the first one. Is the center samples x this is super costly, I think, because we need to go into trigonometry for this, and as soon as trigonometry is involved and square roots and such, it's going to be problematic. Again, I'm just piling on cost on top of cost for this, but yeah, this is not what I'm stuck with. Okay, so you know what, I'm doing the lazy approach. I'm just, when I want to sample whether something is inside this green area here, what I'm actually be doing is I will see if something is in this square, and if it is, maybe something, I use yellow now, and let me zoom in. So maybe if something is here, then I just check whether its distance to this one is greater or greater than the red circle, but less than the radius of the green circle. So if something is here, it should be invalid. And if something is here, it also should be invalid. Modern art. Okay, let's try this. So okay, first I call this my sample region x min is the center sample x minus the center, or well, it's not the center sample, it's just the neighborhood zone. This is the radius for the neighborhood zone, so I don't need to divide it by 2. And x maximum is it plus the neighborhood zone. This makes sense, right? And the same thing for y. And I used xx and yy, of course. So this should be good so far. Then attempt to create neighbor. And then I just pick, like I said, I pick a random value and then check whether it's how far it is away from the other spot. Right. Sample region y min, y max. Okay, so neighbor x is random range sample region x min and sample region x maximum, and the y is the same for that. And now let's check point distance. Is this called point distance? Right. And so this is, now I'm checking the point distance between neighborhood x1 in neighborhood y with the center sample, the previous sample x, and the center sample y. And we do this until this is at a certain, that this lies within this green donut area here. So, and now I'm going to do a while loop. So we're going to do this constantly until something is correct. With while loops, they're super tricky for those who just started out coding. They're super tricky because if you do something wrong, you're very likely to end up in an endless loop because something is always true. So I started doing something that I call a Baylor variable, where I just say the Baylor is, in this case, maybe let's say 100, and if it each time with each loop it counts up, and when the count is greater than 100 it just exits the loop and maybe says, yeah, something went wrong here, maybe you should look at this. So this is what I'm calling now here. I'm just saying here Baylor equals 100. Then I say while, first I say point valid is false, and now I say while not, or point invalid is true. No, point valid. If not point valid, or while not point valid, we just try new variables, and then point distance, or dist equals point distance, right? And if distance is less or equal to the sample or the dead zone, the dead zone, is greater or equal the dead zone, just greater the dead zone, and the distance is less or equal to the neighborhood zone, then the point is valid. Point valid equals true. Regardless of this, at this point we just check the Baylor. So Baylor minus minus, not plus plus. So while point is not valid, or Baylor greater 100, greater 0. Or maybe let's do this differently. If minus minus Baylor, so first we decrement it and then we look at it, is less than 0, then we say, hey, show debug message, something went wrong, or Baylor exceeded in point valid check. Maybe something like this, and then we say break. And hopefully this should work now. My god, this was super problematic. Okay, and finally then we know that the point is valid for now. And so what I'm going to do now is I just add this newfound neighbor. So I create a new, we already have it here, neighbor, and say nx, and the width is ny, and then we put it on ds list add, and the list is the list, and it's neighbor, yeah, okay. So I think now what I want to happen is that once we run this, we get this thing here in center. I undo now. Let's see how far I can undo here something. We get this target sign here in the center, and somewhere in this green circle another sample like we have now. Let's see if this works. No, it does not. Line 53. Wendell Cardua says, I wonder if instead of choosing a random point in a rectangle, then checking if it's in the donut, wouldn't it be better, easier to choose a random angle and a random radius inside the donut, then compute the x and y coordinate? But my math is kind of rusty. Yes, I think this would absolutely make sense, because with either way, you somehow have to do this point distance thing, where with point distance, like I said, I want to avoid trigonometry as much as I can, but since we're doing with circles, I really can't do this. But yeah, I think this would make this practice here not necessary, right? You know what? I will say attempt to create neighbor. I will say here alternative. Good thinking, by the way. Alternative. Choose random. I mean, we're doing a vector right now, a 2D vector, right? Choose random angle from origin and length, because then if the length is larger than the dead zone and less or equal to the neighborhood zone, it would always be valid, at least in the right. Yeah, it would never be outside the rectangle. Exactly. But first, what did I do wrong? Let's see. Let's have a look at the message again. Cursiboo, that's not perfectly uniform. Smaller radius would have higher density. Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The closer you are to the center, because at some point, if I can show this, it would spread very far if you have just this 1 second of an angle there. But the further you get out, it's further apart. Good catch there. Okay, line 53. Not set before reading it. Line 53. Yes, I called it local x and local y. This is what the problem is. This is the problem. Good x and local y. I make this a bit wider. Thank you very much. And I think now this should work now. It should work. Yes, look at this beautiful thing here. And you know what? Now I want, whenever I hit space, I want to run this again. The problem now is that when I hit F5, it will look exactly the same. I can tell you. I see this looking exactly the same. And the thing is, with GameMaker, you have to randomize the seed for the randomizer, right? Because otherwise it always starts with the same seed. And I think this is called randomize, and then it should work. Okay, so now my input control is here whenever I hit if keyboard check pressed, keyboard space, or is it V key space? Yes, I'm a bit rusty with that, but it still works. Then I just restart the room restart. And oh yeah, there's a thing missing. And I think now whenever I hit space, hopefully, oh no, it does not work. Why doesn't it work? Because probably my input is not persistent. So once it gets generated, then we swap the room, it's not there anymore. Yeah, now it works. Okay, looking good so far. That wherever we are, we are correct. Wonderful. Cool. Okay, at least this works. I mean, now I still have this entire headache of finding more spots like this. You know what? Maybe I'm just thinking, maybe it doesn't look too pleasant to look at it when you need to find something what the neighbor zone is, and so I will just change for us now the presentation of this. So I will just say the color is, let's go with yellow, or just aqua again, right? Aqua. But what I will change is the alpha. So for the neighborhood, it's alpha n equals, let's say, 0.1, and the alpha for the dead zone is 0.3. So alpha n and alpha d, hopefully. Unicorn, there we go. But you know what the problem already is that I can see? That when we're doing this, I think sometime, of course, I think, is it okay? One way to fix it, says Crazy Boo, r equals r, so the radius times the square root of the random theta, which is, oh my god, times random times 2 times pi. My god, yeah, exactly, there we are. Trigonometry, everyone. Whenever I have to do something exactly like you're doing there, Karsibu, I'm really sorry that I can't really follow it. You're probably correct what you're doing there. Whenever I have to look up trigonometry, I have to find some tutorials on trigonometry for dummies or first graders or something, because I just can't wrap my head around it. So this is why I'm doing things that I'm doing here a bit weird, as you can see, where I just say, yeah, I'm thinking in squares, I'm thinking inside the box, and then have GameMaker call this function that does all this trigonometric functions. But it's going. Thank you, Automated Unicorn Square Sparkle. Cursibu says, adjust to square root on your random number between 1 and 0 first for the radius. I think I know what you mean. I think, but please enlighten me. So essentially, no, this is not how I move my canvas there in GameMaker. So essentially, what you're saying is, maybe I can, I just change here now the color as well, that it's easier to follow. Okay, so hopefully what you're trying to tell me is that if I have a point there, let's make it here, this point, that but I'm doing the square root of this. What I'm actually calculating is, no, this one is this thing here, right? Is this correct? Or am I overthinking this, or is this much more complex than I'm thinking what it is? Because the problem is now then I have to deal with radians, and I really don't, rather not think with radians if I can avoid it. Okay, good. Cursibu says, yeah. Again, I have to look it up, the formulas, because it takes me so much. It takes so much of my limited mental ability to do this thing. So I think for now I will stick with this, but I'm sure, like I said, we're bound to be able to modify this somehow to make things faster. Because now what I want to do now, I mean, now we get 2 points, but it's not quite what we want to do. Because now with each other point that I add onto this, I have to check it, I think, against all the other points that we have. And this is, I think, where things going to start to become a bit cumbersome. Because once we get the first ring, let's say we do this not just once, but let's say 5 times, and then we get this first ring here, and there shouldn't be any more possible spaces around this here. So with each new sample that I make here in the first one's neighborhood, I need to check it against all the others that are already in the neighborhood. And this becomes, the more that I have in the neighborhood, the more problematic it becomes. Because I think this scales up linearly. which is not, at least not exponentially, but still bad. But I don't think that I can cheat my way around this, at least not I. But okay, so let's get back to our blue noise, because right now it just does here one neighbor. So first thing is we start here, right? We get our center sample and put it on this list where all the samples go, and attempt to create neighbor. Because what I'm thinking now, let me try and visualize what I'm thinking now. What I'm thinking now is, let's not this what I want. Let's just clean this up somewhat. Yeah, beautiful, thank you, Paint. Okay, so the thing is that I can't really copy this well. Anyway, let's try this. Let's try this like so. So when I have this first ring here complete, we have here some other samples that are all valid on this here, like so. Maybe here's another one. Yeah, this doesn't work because the radius always has to be the same. It could here fit another one. Not really. Maybe here. Yeah, apparently it's not more than 4 that could fit. Right. Okay, so and I've made sure that I checked them all against each other, right? So this is the first ring. And now I'm doing the same thing for, let's say, this one here. So this one also has this outside ring that I want to check against. And the problem is that I'm thinking now is when I'm using now green for all that go there, that with all those here that I create in this ring, that I need to check potentially against all the others that I already have created, unless I find a better way to make sure that I don't have to check against everything. Because it makes sense if I check this one against this one here, because it could be, I mean, if this one were maybe here, right? Because it could be in the same neighborhood, right? But it would make sense to check this against this one here. So only those that are neighboring itself there. Oh my god, this is much too complicated for me, I think. Because with this, things are getting super tedious, super fast. Because maybe I could do some sort of... I mean, what I'm thinking now is maybe I could separate my entire area that I want to fill with this into a grid of some sort. And then also just store in what grid cells something is in. And then just check, okay, if let's take just the 5 surrounding grid cells, what other instances or what other points are registered or in the buckets there, and then only check against the neighbors among the grid. Let's say maybe this would be the region where I would check against, right? But again, this would necessitate another data structure that I need also to check and compare for, and I think it's going to be a bit messy. The other thing that I could be doing is use some sort of a tree structure where I don't have to go up one or no more than 2 branches and then check all the children of the branches. I think this would be the more sensible solution to do this, but I've never dabbled with doing tree structures, and it's already getting late. Oh my god. I thought this would be much faster than what we're doing now. Christ. Let me think. I mean, the grid approach would work, but the problem with the grid approach I think is that it's easy that I mean, I have to be super careful with choosing the right grid size, and of course I have to somehow keep track of an increasing number of grid cells or where something is. Classical implementation uses the grid size of R. Okay, so there is a classical implementation for this, and there's already where they say the grid size is the size of the radius. You mean of the neighborhood radius. Right, the other thing with the tree structure would be, if I just go, I try now to label this now differently with colors again. So where I'm doing this, yeah, okay, orange. Let's go with orange, and this is neighborhood of this one. I think I've had orange before. And then let's do a darker shade of orange for all the things that are on this side. And as for tree structure, it would work like this. I think that the first root essentially is the yellow one. Let me move this over. That this is the center node, the yellow one, and on this center node there are the orange ones, right? Now let's make this a bit bigger here. Then we got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these orange nodes, right? And the orange nodes have the dark orange nodes, right? So I think this is how a tree structure of this would look like. And if I want to check whether one of those super ugly salad fingers like leaves, whether this intersects with any of the others, I would just go and look at all the neighbors on the same leaf or branch. This is a leaf and this is a branch, I think. So that I wouldn't have to do it all over again, or for the entire thing, right? But I don't know how to do this. I mean, not right now. Probably if I give it some thinking, but this is not interesting to look at on a stream where I'm just looking for 20 minutes into the distance and trying to figure things out while scribbling. But I mean, it could be fun to dabble with this kind of tree structures. But again, I have no idea how to work with this. I mean, I would have to come up with my own tree structure representation, because GameMaker doesn't have this. GameMaker has grids, which is helpful. GameMaker has queues. GameMaker has stacks, and GameMaker has lists. But GameMaker doesn't have trees. The automated unicorn shivers. Yeah, thank you, automated unicorn. And I feel the same, to be honest. This is growing much more complex than I anticipated that it would be like. But at least it produced some modernist abstract art so far. AU is afraid of trees. Are me? I'm afraid of trees. I think I'm afraid of trees. But what is AU? Please enlighten me. Is this the automated unicorn you're referring to? Then I know. I mean, I would also be afraid of trees, as I'm come to think about it. I mean, how does it work for you? I mean, I would assume some of you are much more versed in programming than I am. I would even assume that pretty much all of you are. How would you do this? Do this with a grid or a tree structure? Again, automated unicorn. Thank you, Cursey. Right. Because again, I think tree would be the best and cleanest solution. But again, a grid would be probably the fastest. Or faster, or at least it would be manageable for me. But yeah, this is, I think this is obvious that this is much more involved than the simple white noise. Cool. Yeah, I got one neighbor coded up so far. Yeah, I don't know if I want to continue with this today, but there is one thing that we could do which would help us in the long run, and that is, I mean, right now I'm drawing this with every step 60 times a second, essentially, if I didn't change the room speed to anything else, or the game speed as it's called. But it would make much more sense to only draw this onto a surface, as it's called in Game Maker, just once, and then just redraw the surface, because it's much faster to just draw one surface than instead of doing all the drawing algorithms, like 60 times a second. So yeah, let's make this. Okay, so in my blue noiser here, I mean, I only need the surface to be as big as the region that we want, right? So I just say surface is new, surface new, surface create probably. Cursipu says grid probably makes sense, since tree might only be asymptotically better, and we hardly shouldn't have any asymptomatic outliers, I think, right? Is that what you're saying? Because again, gut says tree is so much more cleaner, but brain says, yeah, you will have already a lot on your plate if you just do the grid approach. So I think let's go with the grid approach. Right, okay, surface create, and width and height, and is region width and region height. Right, then, and we draw, and surface drawn. I mean, we don't even need to redraw the surface, because we're going to the problem is with surfaces in Game Maker is they're kind of volatile, so you have to check whether a surface that you want to draw still exists. The only surfaces that are guaranteed to exist are the game surface. But if you want your own surfaces like this, you constantly have to check whether they exist. I will try now. You're not saying asymptomatically, but the asymptotic, if that's correct, the name in English, of number of points that goes to infinity. There we go. Thank you, Math and me. So I'm very grateful that you correct all my weird stumbling and stuttering with knowledge. So thank you, Cursipu. Thank you for that. Surface, right. Surface. So the first thing that I do and say surface drawn or surface finished is false, and then I just draw the surface, and once I'm done drawing it, I will say the surface is finished, and then we don't need to draw it again and only display the surface. Right, so let's see, if surface, did I just say surface drawn? Surface finished. If surface finished, and surface exists, surface, then we just display the surface, otherwise we need to draw it anew. Surface, or draw surface, I think draw surface, and it's the surface, and we draw the surface at the region X and Y. So essentially we're giving we're giving a starting point for our region, then the blue noise function does the calculations locally. At the very end, it moves it to the absolute position, and now I'm taking out the absolute position again, drawing it relatively, and then just moving the surface. I hope this makes sense. Okay, so I draw the surface at region width and region height. So I think now we don't even need to have this, because we can draw the region wherever we want. We don't need to have this start X and start Y. We can completely take this out. So start X and start Y is only here at the very end, I think. So this is where we can take it out. So now it's only relative again. Right, okay, so we draw the surface there, and else. So if either the surface is not finished or the surface does not exist, we just draw it. And finally we say surface finished true. But of course we need to say we want to draw this onto a surface, right? So alpha 0.5, I don't think that I'm using this. Surface finished. What's it saying here? Only referenced once. Really? Anyway, let's try to say draw. I need to set the surface as the target, or draw target. What's it? Target layer surface set target. Then I say my surface is the target, and in the end I need to reset after my drawing things. Surface reset target. Surface reset target. Right. Okay, probably I also want to clear my surface first. So the drawing actually happens in this for loop. So I set the target to the surface, do the drawing from the for loop, and then reset the surface. So clear surface, I think that's what it's, or surface clear. It's unclear to me. Surface depth disable, get height, surface clear. Was it clear or fill maybe? Surface free. No, this is not what I wanted. How do I fill the surface again? Thank you, Automated Unicorn. Get pixel, get pixel. This is super costly. Draw surface general, surface stretched, view surface. Probably have to look at surface create name. Texture width. Let's Google surfaces, or well, let's not Google it, but look it up in the manual. Where is the manual? There it is. Surfaces. Surface reset target. This is what I'm doing. Surface set target. Surface exists. Create. Copy. Copy part. Get pixel free. Draw surface. Tile general. Buffer get surface. Application surface enable. Yeah, this is all not what I want. Maybe it's under drawing. I mean, yeah, this is drawing. Maybe I need to fill it with draw flush. What is draw flush? Can flush the entire draw pipeline. Okay, yeah, this is not what I want. Surface exists, exactly. With surface, draw on the surface, otherwise reset the target. Guide to using blend modes. Yeah, I'm just drawing it like I would, usually. Reset target, surface copy. Maybe I've just overlooked something here. Set target, get texture, get width, free, save part. And yeah, no, doesn't look like it. You know what? Let's see if this really works. And then I just draw show debug message. Surface exists. Why are you making a surface again? I thought the goal was to output an array of points only once at the start of the room. Yeah, this is just for debugging now, because when I want to draw like hundreds of instances and all with their little radius, with alpha blending and so on, I think it would be super slow if I did this 60 times a second, and now I only want to do this once and then just display the surface, and then whenever I hide space, then only it updates. I think this is what my intention was. So let's see if this works. Surface exists, and look at this, here is something on the surface, but it doesn't work face. So probably because somewhere I did an oopsie. I did something wrong. But at least it draws the surface, right? At least it draws the surface. I think the problem is that I'm drawing it again. There is something wrong with doing it locally. So X and Y. Surface set target. Yeah, okay, this makes sense. I'm drawing it at the position there. X and Y. This is good. Okay, maybe there is something still in there. I mean, then probably would not compile it all. Width and height. Maybe there is something. Width times 5. Okay, so there. No, this is not. This is actually good. Width and height. Neighborhood zone sample. So everything is good. It's just somehow clipped. And I don't need to show this debug message anymore. So this list item local X, there we go, and local X is good. Okay, I thought I still had somehow this offset in there. Let's have a look at it again. Okay, so there is the center, but it shouldn't be there. So I think I'm drawing the surface incorrectly. At an incorrect position. Surfaces. Okay, I draw the surface at... Oh yeah, this is region width and region height and not the region X and the region Y. This makes sense. This makes sense. Stupid. Okay, so it looks a bit better, but still we're having a problem. So surface create, the width and the height. This is good. Then we draw the surface at position X and position Y. And again, I'm somehow messing probably up the coordinates. You know what? I will just say debug, show debug message, and then just print me out the item, not time, item X and item Y for all the items that we have. So of course, yeah, now it's just says surface exists, which overrides everything. So I need to take that out. And let's have a look at it again. Okay, so 230, 20, 90, 88. So 230, there is something wrong with this very first thing here. Why is this 230 at the item XX? There, again, I think this is the big problem that I have. So I create a surface and I give it the region X. Of course, I give it the region X and the Y, but I should give it the width and the height. Again, the same problem that we have. Yeah, I want to stop. Okay, just mixed up the variables. Good old thing. Now this looks good. This looks super good. This looks correct. By the way, what I could do, try and see how much faster we are. Maybe if I draw this like 100 times on top of each other, just so that we can check whether we should be using surfaces or not. For more j equals 0, j less than 100, or let's say 1000, j plus plus. So use surfaces equals true. And then we say if use surfaces we do this entire block here, otherwise no surfaces. I'm just going to copy now this entire block here. Just so that we can benchmark how much faster surfaces are compared to just drawing this hundreds times. So I'm just cleaning here the thing here. Okay, let's see how this looks 100 of times on top of each other. It's super opaque. And you know what? Maybe this would be nice to have frame rate. Yes, I allow all the access that you want, of course, dearest debugger. So double click the resource. Why? Oh my god, the debugger is huge. My god. Because it thinks it's running in 4K. How do I get this smaller? There we go. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. I'm just doing some profiling. Oh, you know what? I probably can get rid of the debug messages here. Okay, now we're just trying to see if I get this to run. Okay, benchmarking. We're benchmarking this with surfaces now. And where do I have my real-time debugging? No, I don't want real-time debugging. Where do I have my profiler? My god, it's been so long. It's been so long. Debugger, Windows, resource, call stack, surfaces, render states, buffers, profile, graph. There we go. This is super helpful. And profile. Oh, there is the profile. So let's start profiling and see what is taking the longest. So we got average 6,000, 8,000 frames per second, which is quite good, I would say. This is when we're doing it with surfaces. And now when I say we're not using surfaces, let's see, hit the wrong button. Let's see how this works. Did I hit the wrong thing? Oh dear. I think I just crashed the profiler. Okay, let's try this once more. And where is my profiler? Debugger. Come on. Okay, there is something wrong here, but it's okay because this was just for testing purposes anyway. Yeah, I think it doesn't like it that it's going to be drawn like thousands of times per frame. I mean, it's not that bad, but yeah, it clearly just obliterated debugger. God, I hope I can get this working again. Ah, it just crashed. I think I'll let it die now. Close the program. Bye bye, Game Maker Studios. Any one of you running Windows 11, by the way? I've heard very bad things about it. And I thought, yeah, if the basic functionality is not there, I'm not bothering, because I don't like it when I can't move my taskbar around, because when I'm streaming, when I'm not streaming, I usually have it down here. When I'm streaming, I just move it over there, and so on and so forth. So, where is my project? Yeah, close. There we go, blue noise. Ender says, yeah, I heard things. Yeah, it's probably like with Windows 8 or Windows 7. I don't know which one it was. It was the bad one, the really bad one. I think it was Windows 7, where I had the 64-bit version, and the vendors, the entire hardware vendors, were super hesitant to update the drivers because they thought nobody's going to change their operating system, and I was one of the very first early adopters, because I usually am, because I think I want to get it over with. If it hurts now, I just want to be done. 8 was bad, 7 is okay. Then it was the 8 one, because I remember when I updated, and it was sometime in spring, and I always tell the story, and the first time I could print again, because I had printer drivers, was in fall. So I was half a year not able to print from this machine. Super bad. Yeah, sorry for lack of a better word. Okay, yeah, what have we learned today? First thing is use the surfaces. Let's keep this at true, because this is good. And yeah, it still works, which is fine. But again, I think I should be doing this grid approach, like we said. But I think I will save this for next time. So just to reiterate what's happening and what we're doing, blue noise, and essentially it's just putting samples or placing samples there with regards to their surroundings, whether they are too close to any other sample. And this any other sample is making things kind of hard for me, because I have to come up with a good algorithm. I did not, and the algorithm that I took was from Casey Muratori, which essentially is just start with one sample there and then just pick random points in its neighborhood until there aren't any valid points in its neighborhood anymore, and then just do this next thing for every other leaf. Again, leaf, I'm saying because I wanted to do this as a tree structure, but I don't know how to do this, at least not with GameMaker, and I think it's a bit, as we say in German, shooting with cannons at sparrows, which is just overly cumbersome. So I think I will do the grid approach, and for those who have just tuned in, essentially the grid approach, my god, this is a fat grid, is where I'm just for each grid cell, I'm just having a bucket and see how many or what samples are in a given grid cell bucket. And when I'm checking for possible neighbors, so that I don't have to check each new sample against all the other samples that we have, I'm just checking there in the local vicinity of maybe this one sample. I'm just checking a surrounding disk of on the grid, whether there are collisions there, because it doesn't make sense if I want to check this thing here, whether it collides with its neighbors. It wouldn't make sense if I would check it against this grid cell. So this is, I think, what we're going to do next time, if there's interest in any of this. Frank says, sorry for all the lurking today, I haven't been watching a lot. It's okay, I mean, this is not super interesting, so really I'm very glad that you still lurked, so don't worry. And it says, I switched from XP to Linux in the university, then back for games on Windows 10. Missed the anguish. Yeah, I tried switching to Linux. I told the story that I tried to switch like every couple of years. I'm not fully switching to Linux, but just dabbling in Linux. And then I hate the experience. Everything needs to update, and the cores, and then you need, whenever you have a problem, people say, yeah, just open a shell and type this, and I don't know what I'm typing. And the biggest thing is all my Adobe Suite products aren't running there. Yeah, I could use Wine, people suggested. I don't want to run Windows in an emulator. So yeah, I didn't have the best experiences with Linux, probably because, like I said, I'm pretty much locked into Windows with all the software that I'm running. But I very much like the idea of Linux, but just that it feels like I'm more of a user. And that's saying a lot, because with there was this one comic, or was it a comic where it's, every operating system is a different kind of airplane. With Windows, everything is super clunky, and some things fall off, and you lose half your baggage, and you arrive 10 hours late at an airport where you didn't want to go. With macOS, everything is super slick, super expensive, and there's a chance that your Concorde is crashing midair and just taking everything with it. But maybe something, it's not happening all the time, just sometimes, but you never know. And with Linux, it's everybody meet at the airport and we build an airplane together. So, and I think it still holds true in some regard. Cursipu says, but still dual boot Linux mainly. Oh, this is interesting. I think for coding, Linux can be super nice because you don't have all this huge baggage that you get with Windows, right? Of course, the Gmail stuff interesting, don't stress. Oh, thank you. Really? Frank says, I dual booted back in the Windows 95 and 98 days, not since. And Linux requires some dedication. Yes, it does. Other people say it requires some blood sacrifice to get it done. And once you are a part of the religion, you really can't go out, because you probably started some open source project that someone is relying on for the big corporate software that's built upon this little thing that's maintained. I think there was this XKCD comic where this big open source software construct, and there is this one strut where it says this is maintained by one person somewhere in Minnesota for 20 years, and we all hope that they are still updating. Windows is much too confusing for me, says Frank. Yeah, I get it. Linux on the other end just works. For me, it's the other way around. For me, Windows, I know it's bad, but for me it works, and with Linux, I have no clue. I use Linux at work, where we're only running, essentially only running the software DaVinci Resolve that I need to do my job for color grading. For that, it works good, but sometimes everything locks up, and then I have to do this weird voodoo with like Control Alt F2 lock in, then say top, then kill the GPU process, then go out and restart it again, and it feels like it looks like people said, "Oh my God, are you hacking right now?" And I say, "No, I'm just using the damn thing." So yeah, this is my Linux experience. And when I want to automate something in like I would do on Windows with just using a quick batch script, because everything is so gated in terms of what user, which permissions you have, and what files you can edit. I mean, if you're coming from Unix, this is probably super straightforward. I'm not coming from Unix, and I just curse at the damn thing. So essentially, yeah, you probably have guessed that I'm not that much of a Linux proponent, but I totally get people who are very invested in Linux and are very passionate about Linux. It's just not for me. I have a small laptop with Linux for some projects that don't require Unity, says Ender. Right. I mean, if you don't use all the software that, like I said, Adobe mostly, that forces you to use a PC, it's so great that you get the chance to choose, right? I heard many people who are very happy programming on Mac OS, which I think good for you. I've heard that it's mostly web stuff, but of course now Unity works, and I think even Unreal and everything. I mean, it works, and now with the new chips. My God, I'm curious to see how differently they behave compared to the PCs, because I think Apple had first the Power PCs, and then they switched to Intel processors, and then I kind of lost interest or lost track of what they were doing. But it feels now that Apple has some sort of new a generation of processors, which I'm super curious about how they perform, because they're said to be the best things since bread. So yeah, I believe the hype for now. I'm just at the outskirts peeking in. OS X is of course even weirder, more confusing, and less usable than Windows. Exactly, this is my experience. I mean, I grew up with Windows, and I have friends who grew up with Macs. And there's constantly this thing where I say, yeah, what I really like about Windows is that when I'm in a file open dialog and I see, okay, this file has the wrong name, so I can rename it and move the entire folder over there, and also rename it when it's there. With Mac OS, I always think, okay, this is the file open dialog. You just can open files, don't move them around, don't create anything new, just open your file, right? And I hate this, but yeah, many little pet peeves that I have about Mac. Also can look cool in public hacking away at the terminal. I even like mine in black green. Oh, are you running what's the Linux text editor everyone is using since the Unix days? Emacs, right? When I was studying at the Technical University in Graz, that was like 15 years ago. Oh my God. I mean, I wasn't that much studying there. I was just curious and visited some of the lectures. And I was there with my wonderfully green-blue Windows XP background there. Everyone else was using Emacs, and everyone made fun of me while I was there. And I said, why are they saying touring machine? Is this a touring car, like a rally car? I have no idea what they're talking about. But at least I stuck with it for 2 semesters and got nothing done. So this is my experience with computer science, and this explains this code that you've been forced to watch today. I'm really sorry for my bad code. I dropped a cup of tea while trying to install OS X some years ago. Not friends since. Yeah, if you start off on the wrong foot, it just carries through. I'm with the VVim camp, not the Emacs one. Oh yeah, right. There are more camps than there are. I mean, I'm still a Notepad++ kid, but I've grown fond of VS Code recently. But I think Vim and Emacs people can unite against IDE weirdos, right? If people start using a mouse, those are weird people, man. Those are the users, the weird ones. Right, okay, so I think I'm going to call it a day because I have a stressful day tomorrow. Where I have a client sitting with me for like 6 or 7 hours, which is, I mean, you get work done, but it's super stressful or super intense when you can't have a break. But yeah, this is going to be my week. Anyway, at least I got some work done on the post-mortem, which there are some things that I'm very proud of, and I can't wait to share them with you once it's done. So yeah, let's close this horrible thing, and also this thing. Maybe someone wants to hang it in their bathroom as art, which, yeah, tough luck. Now there was your chance to screen grab. Right, and it says, yeah, there are Clash of Clans level number of camps. Oh my god. Oh, post-mortem hype, yes. I've written the script for the LD49. I've recorded the script for LD49 in my sound booth studio number 2, which is just talking into the closet. Because here, you can see it behind me, there is this sound reverb absorbing foam things here, and usually in here you don't really hear it, but it's a little bit of a reverb there, and I hate it, especially when I want to do some super clean voiceover. And so far I've always used this microphone, and I have a couple of more of these, and just made myself a little cave where I just could look at the screen, use the mouse, and it was horrible because, of course, I don't have any ways to fix this, and especially the arm, this one here of the microphone, always gets in between. I don't want to cut things out. So yeah, it was always a hassle, always super cumbersome. Sometimes I just knocked my glass with water over, horrible things. So I thought, yeah, I'm not up for this anymore, and I record the good old way with a microphone in my closet, where everything is just super isolated from any sound outside, and just use my phone where I have my script. And you know what? It was much faster. It was much faster. I thought it's super fast when I can record it directly and then edit it, but it was so much faster when I did this just in the other room, just stood there and recorded the audio. So the audio is done. Also the intro I've already edited, and there are some, like I said, some minor little things that I'm quite happy about, and I hope you're going to like them as well. Wonderful. With that being said, and there apparently a new music track started there on the background, I think let's call it a night. Again, I thank you very much for your patronage, for your subscriptions, for sticking with me and me trying to wrap my head around data structures and this thing where I thought, yeah, I think this is super easy, this could be done in 2 hours, and now we are sitting here after 2 hours, and I just realized how hard it actually is. But I think with this grid-based approach, this may be something where I can continue next week. And yeah, I hope I see you there, and until then, I hope you have a great week. Again, I always appreciate it that you take some time out of your busy weekend schedule to just watch me talk on this thing. Data is fun, dies of boredom. No, data can be fun. I mean, when I was watching Casey Muratori's talk, the link again is in the stream chat at the very top. Maybe I should post it again for anyone who just joined, and I closed already. I closed it already. Can I still find it here? I probably can still find it. The Medium, and there we go. YouTube. yeah, I got with this talk from Casey Muratori on optimizing code. This was just so super inspirational to me, and I thought, oh, I really want to get back to coding. And so this is why I'm here. And again, I'm very appreciative that you also think that this is fun. And first time chat from viewers, as one message was deleted by a moderator. Thank you so much for deleting this. I can click to show it, and it was want to become famous again. Thank you so much, Frank, for stepping in. Respect, my man, for being a solid mod for all this. Okay, might go watch that next. Yeah, if you have 2 hours, like I said, it was to me it felt super nice, and Casey is super prepared, much better prepared than me when talking about these things, and I like his whiteboard where he can draw things. And yeah, even I understood what was being said. And again, if you have 2.5 hours or so, knock yourself out. Like I said, I'm a nerd. I like these kind of things. Right. Let's have the last sip of water. And you know me, I don't know how to end things. So I'll try to say it. Hold on to your papers, and see you next week.